On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk. What is a Welkin? Why are you playing Anthems for it? I don't know.
Who knows?
Spy Emperor. We'll find out. Also, it's Black Metal January. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We really like heavy metal. We like to talk about it. And for January, to get into the cold, dark feeling of the month and really just envelop ourselves in the, the anguish and despair.
The blackness.
The blackness that this month brings upon us all. We're talking exclusively about black metal albums for this month.
It's supposed to be 25 below tonight, too.
Good God.
Yeah, I know. Now, we started your car. Now, your car wouldn't start earlier.
Yeah, I was going to go get beer because it was my week to go get beer. My car wouldn't start, and I have a battery charger, so I was like, I'm going to hook up my battery charger. And then I found out that my extension cord doesn't work.
Right.
So when you popped by a little bit early, you hooked up your jump pack, got it started right away, and then we drove and got beer, let the battery charge up a little bit, filled up on gas, and we've arrived back, and we're both still, I can tell, very cold.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel my toes.
Yeah, my feet are very cold.
Yeah.
I turned on the downward fans at a certain point, but I don't think they quite heated up by the time we returned.
No, if your engine is 3 degrees, then it's not really going to warm up your toes all that much.
Yeah, so I think I'm almost thinking before bed I should run it a little bit, but
perhaps.
Yeah, it's been a rough week as far as temperature goes. Holy fucking shit.
And it's going to warm up, though. For like Friday, it's going to be in the 20s. It's going to be like shorts weather.
Yeah, and then it's going to cool back down to like 0 again after that. So yeah, January's been a kind of a shit show so far. I guess the first week was kind of like, oh, this is fairly moderate for January. Sure. And then this week, we've just taken a plunge. My God.
We got to have these, though. Every year, you got to have these days.
Yeah. January, most of January and generally early February is usually very, very, very cold here.
Yes.
But what you been up to other than trying to survive?
Other than trying to survive, see, what was I doing?
We had a holiday party.
Oh, yeah, we did have a holiday party.
Yeah. Our company held our annual holiday party after all the holidays were over with.
Indeed.
And
we had the white elephant gift.
Yes, and you start with what you got. What you brought.
What I brought?
Yeah, start with what you brought and then say what you got.
Okay, well, here's what I was going to do. We had board games, and then we go driving by this place here on South Broadway where what's essentially a head shop. And I thought, you know what? I think that would be a nice gift for somebody. A bong.
A good old-fashioned bong.
So I brought a bong.
And what'd you end up getting?
I ended up getting a record player, a portable record player with little speakers in the front. And we actually bought some records today. Me and my 13-year-old, we went to the local record store.
Yeah.
Get to your local record store if you're listening to this.
Yeah, go to your local record store.
Yeah,
even if you're just going to buy a CD. That's fine. They almost always have CDs there. Go support them. Patronize them a little bit.
I encourage that. Yeah, we encourage that. So then I thought, oh man, I wonder who the loser asshole is going to be. That's going to end up with the bong.
Well, you see, I shall start with what I brought. I went to the record store to get my white elephant gift to give to somebody. I didn't know what I was looking for when I went in there. I had joked with you about trying to find a vinyl copy of the greatest album ever made by mankind, Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water by the visionary Limp Bizkit. Those are not available.
No. In fact, they're very expensive, isn't it? Yeah.
On Discogs and Amazon, they're in the $130+ range.
Yeah, that's not worth $130.
Yeah, it's not worth $10.
No.
Sorry to any Limp Bizkit fans out there, but yeah, at least to me, it's not worth $10.
But you're going to buy it because it would have been a fun thing for somebody to end up with.
It would have been funny.
Yeah.
To me, anyway. But instead, I walked in and I asked the manager, Dylan, I asked him, I was like, I need something that is obscure, kind of funny and kitschy, but not collectible. And he was like, I'm going to help you look around. He also found these funny little socks that said Drink and Be Murray, and they had Bill Murray on them.
Those were awesome.
Those are fun socks. But we ended up finding, I believe, the self-titled album by a 80s sort of hair metal band called Heavy Pettin'.
Heavy Pettin'. I actually remember that.
And the cover of the album is like a very the most 80s looking car. You see it from the back. It's clear that they are at a drive-in theater that is completely empty. Some of the meters at the drive-in, or not the meters, but the audio box.
The audio box, I suppose, where you hook
speaker.
Up to get the speaker, right?
Yeah, those some of them were knocked over. This is sort of a decrepit,
like an abandoned
place. And there are legs coming out the window, indicating something steamy has happened in that car. Maybe some heavy petting.
And who ended up with that?
I don't
remember.
Oh, it was Connor's girlfriend.
Oh,
it was Becca. I think they're dating.
Anyway, I don't think they are.
Anyway, she ended up with it, and she wanted to trade me for the bong, and I was like, no. By the way, I got the bong. Yeah. And I was like, no, this might be very useful to me in a year.
Sure, who knows?
Who knows? Also, it's just kind of funny to have that as a conversation piece, just an empty, perfectly pristine, clearly never used bong. Somebody just walking in, just like, why do you have a bong that looks like it's never been used?
You know what I thought would be cool is if you put like flowers and shit in it. Or
that's what people on my group chat said. They're like, put flowers in it. And I was like, yeah, I could do that. But yeah, maybe it could be very useful to me in a year. I don't know.
Perhaps you might partake of some marijuana.
Perhaps if it becomes legal. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So I came home with a bong. I was kind of disappointed because I could have come home with like $130.
Yeah, that didn't. Yeah, there was a game which I didn't play at all.
Yeah, we started a game that's basically left, right, and center, but with money.
See, I've only ever played it with money.
Yeah.
I've never not played that with money.
So everybody puts 3 $1 bills down, and then you roll a bunch of dice to figure out whether you hand a certain number of dollar bills to the left, you hand them to the right, or you put one or several in the center.
In the kitty there, right in the middle.
Yeah, in the pot. And if the last person who has $1 left ends up rolling a center, everybody goes again. The money remains in the pot, and you pull out $3 more and go again. That happened to us 3 times.
Yeah.
We got to the 4th game. It was like 11 o'clock. We were all, fairly tipsy at this point, and we just we said if somebody rolls a center, we just divvy up all the money and basically get our money back.
Let's just be done with it.
Return on investment. That's all we need to do. Just end the game, and everybody gets their money back. Nobody wins. But Quinn won. He walked home with. Why did you say his full name?
Because he's on Facebook. I think you should probably go congratulate him. Listening to this,
ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, no, I'm gonna delete I'm gonna do something to the last name there.
Okay,
we don't need people looking up the names of our coworkers.
Don't need to bother Quinn.
Some people, God damn it, some people listen to this podcast. Some people.
That's true, but they're good people.
I'm sure. Yeah,
they're not going to do mean things to Quinn.
Sure, no one on the. Okay, quit creating more work for me. Seriously. Anyway, yeah, he went home with like $130 or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, it was an interesting night. It was a fun night. Had a decent time. Anything else you've been up to?
Man, anything else? Not really. I'm trying to think. No,
you watch
really.
Anything fun?
Did I tell you we rewatched Parks and Rec? We did that.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Did I tell you I finally saw What We Do in the Shadows?
I don't think you did. You finally watched What We Do in the Shadows.
Finally, I hadn't seen that yet, and the wife and I watched it,
I love that movie.
It's a good movie.
I fucking love that movie. It's maybe the most purely like Taika Waititi movie there is, in the sense that it's like it feels more like Flight of the Conchords than any of his other movies. I don't know if he was really involved in Flight of the Conchords.
No, but
one of his co-stars was.
Yeah.
Jermaine Clement. But it's you can feel Jermaine's influence so much in that. But it is a very, very funny movie. I haven't watched the TV show.
No.
The TV show looks like it'd be very funny.
No, is it the same? It's not the same actors.
No, they do make a cameo appearance.
Sure.
They do exist in the world, but it's just the same situation, but with vampires living in America.
In America.
And there are 3 vampires that live in an apartment together in America versus the 3 vampires that live in a house together.
Well, it was 4.
Yes, it was 4.
Yeah.
Spoilers, one of the, yeah. Well, it kind of, I guess by the end, Nick doesn't live with them, but their group goes back to being 4. But
stop telling people you're a vampire.
Stop! You need to stop telling people that you are a vampire. Leave me to do my dark bidding on the internet.
What are you bidding on?
This chair. It looks very nice. But I'm glad you watched that.
Yeah.
I started watching Cowboy Bebop.
Right.
Classic late 90s anime. Because I'm trying to get into at least like a couple.
At least the good ones.
At least the good ones. And what is and is not a good anime is, of course, entirely subjective. I think for me, I tend to enjoy the ones that have that feel the most Western.
What Cowboy Bebop definitely
like
that feel.
It's the music and the it's all film noir and Western and everything kind of smashed together. It's very much got an American feel to it. And because one of my biggest problems with anime that I've watched is the pacing. I have trouble staying engaged when some episodes there might be plot things happening, but it is delivered so slow.
Yeah.
And what is in a different show would be like a, 3-episode arc takes 5 hours. 5 hours in 14 episodes because they're usually fairly short. So it feels like it takes forever in some shows that I've watched, or at least that I've had other people sit me down and be like, you should watch this. And I'm just going like, God. But some of I'm trying to seek out on my own shows that I feel like I will enjoy more. And I watched Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I loved that. I can say I adore it. I am now a big fan of that. And I'm really liking Cowboy Bebop so far, and that's a short one too.
Yeah, that's like 30 episodes.
Yeah, it's a short one, so I can digest that in smaller pieces at a time.
Yes,
without feeling like, oh God, I don't want to spend 5 months watching this show. I also have picked up and started playing Outer Worlds more heavily again. I let it sit for a while, and it's like I've got this Game Pass subscription that I'm playing it through. And it's like I need to finish it before my Game Pass, before the cost of the months I've had Game Pass exceeds what I would have paid for it at retail price. Because it's like, I think it's like $6 a month. And it's like, I need to finish this game before this investment, is no longer worth it.
Before you become upside down on your investment.
Basically, yeah. Because like the whole idea was like, oh, I can just buy a few months of Game Pass and basically get this game for cheap. And the idea behind Game Pass is it is much more for people who are going to be playing games a lot. So you just pay a subscription service and you get a certain amount of games for free. It's like Netflix, but for video games.
Sure.
You get these games for free as long as you stay subscribed. You're not necessarily going to get a lot of big AAA titles, but Outer Worlds is one of those. It's one of the few big AAA games on Game Pass. I think there's a lot of older like AAA titles on there as well, but most of it is like indie games and stuff like that. I haven't actually really looked through the library of the games I could play on there, but it's something maybe I should do at some point. But
I told you I got Devil May Cry 4 for Christmas, right?
4 or
is it
5?
No, 5. I got Devil May Cry 5. One.
Yeah. I've heard that game is so much fun that it's just everything is so fucking bonkers and ridiculous.
It is bonkers, but of course, all the games are kind of bonkers and ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, starting with the first one. But yeah, this one...
This game, you can hit dudes with a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
It is a bit crazy.
Yeah.
And, you're fighting demons the whole time. And
also, there's naked ladies.
Kind of.
You don't really see the boob, but I mean, they're naked, but you don't see anything necessarily.
You don't see them in the boobs.
You don't see them. And apparently, in the PS4 version, they added, I guess the Japanese have some sort of issue with butt cracks.
Yeah.
Even if you don't see anything. So they added lens flares to cover up all the butt cracks in the game. Conveniently placed lens flares. They had J.J. Abrams himself come in to cover up every single butt crack.
Sure.
Which I thought was impressive.
Like he did with Star Trek.
Yeah, all the butt cracks. I think there was 300 butt cracks in Star Trek.
There was.
There was one on Carl Urban's face.
Strangely.
Which I thought was weird.
It wasn't his own.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't even his own butt crack.
Yeah.
I watched Ken Burns' The Dust Bowl.
Sure.
Which is one of his shorter documentary series. It's only a 2-parter. And it's just very good story about how the Dust Bowl happened, how people survived it, how deadly it actually was. Like, people think of course, a lot of famine, people starving, people running out of money. But really, it's like the dust storms, people got what they call dust pneumonia, and like a fair amount of people died from having inhaled so much dust, and you couldn't escape it. There was no escaping it. Dust was fucking everywhere. And I had never heard the full story of Black Tuesday. It had been a while. Not Black Tuesday, sorry, Black Sunday. Black Tuesday was also in that era, but
right.
Black Sunday was, there was a Sunday where people woke up in the morning and the skies were clear, super clear. There was no dust storms, no wind. It was a beautiful day, and everyone was like, oh my God, this is like the first nice day we've had in years. Let's go out and do stuff. There were funerals being held. And then a dust storm got kicked up in Montana, and it kept on heading further and further south.
Got bigger and bigger.
By the time it hit Oklahoma and Colorado, like the Dust Bowl area, which was parts of Colorado, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and Texas, and
Arkansas,
or not really Arkansas.
Not really.
That was like sort of on the edge, but like the center of it was sort of that all the states surrounding the Oklahoma Panhandle. It was like the worst dust storm up to that point. But then things continue to get worse. Like, I didn't realize how long those dust storms actually lasted. Like, it was the whole decade, essentially.
Yeah, and it eventually killed everyone.
Yeah, eventually killed everyone. No, not quite. Better farming practices. And then there was like a mini dust bowl in the 50s because there were a lot of people who just decided to go back to the way they were doing things, and the same shit happened again. Right. And finally people figured out like, oh, okay, we should listen to the government people who are telling us this is the way we need to farm here. And that one was not nearly as bad because there were a number of farmers who were instructed by people who worked for the government, like, this is the way you need to farm. They're like, okay, we're going to do that. And they had continued to do that, and it made that little dust bowl far less severe. And then there was something I didn't know, because there's this huge aquifer underneath, like, the southern Great Plains that is, like, starting to be dried up. Like, they think within, like, the next 50 years, all that water is going to be gone. Wow. And, like, all of these farms on the southern plains rely on that water for irrigation. And they're going to kind of go away. Or at least they're really going to have to change the way that they do things. Because they've been relying on all this plentiful water up until now.
Yeah, and that's where all the food comes from.
Yeah, that's where all the fucking food comes from. So, yay.
So we're going to have to figure out...
Another thing we have to look forward to.
Right. Well, we don't.
Yeah. Not here in North Dakota necessarily, because we've got some big rivers and shit that people use for irrigation.
It's like 50 years from now...
everyone's gonna be dead.
Well, I know I'll be dead.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I might be. I don't know.
I'll be almost 100 years old.
Look, OJ, they say that the first man to live to be 150 has already been born. What if it's you?
It's not me.
What if it's you?
Let's take stock of what I've done over the last.
I mean, there are people who have like
years.
ate a pound of bacon every day for like their entire lives and lived to be 120. Human bodies are fucking weird.
Sure. That's true.
What's horribly unhealthy for one person and most people, for some reason, seems to have no effect on some weird supermen who can just eat as much junk food as they want.
Right, because I'm a Superman.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I've been watching little by little? A show called The Family.
The Family. What is that about?
It's a documentary about a shadow organization. It's a Christian organization that basically runs the world.
Oh, yeah, you were telling me a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to watch,
I suppose.
but it's interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, now that we've presented that to you.
Black metal.
Black metal, yeah. Some people that would take some issue with Christians running the world.
Sure.
So yeah, Emperor is one of the biggest names in black metal, especially when it comes to Norwegian black metal. Mm-hmm. They were one of the early bands in the early Norwegian black metal scene. They were contemporaries of Darkthrone and Mayhem and Burzum, mm-hmm. And Faust was a part of the Black Circle. I don't know if the rest of them were. And if you were listening to last week's episode and heard at the end of last week's episode my trepidation about discussing Emperor, mm-hmm. it's because this band, like a lot of early black metal bands, has a bit of a sinister reputation. Although the more I looked into it, the less sinister it seemed. Although to be not to gloss over anything, because Faust, their original drummer, did murder a person and go to prison.
Yep.
So if you were listening last year and talking about some of our discussions, and then especially when we watched the film
Lords of Chaos,
and didn't have a good time watching it because it wasn't a very good movie.
It wasn't terrible.
It wasn't it wasn't The Room or anything. It just was not as good as it should have been.
No.
It could have been much better.
Sure.
There were ways to do everything in that movie better than they did, and it wouldn't have been hard to do them.
I'm just imagining that the producers of the movie, convincing other people to become involved, throwing out the selling point. Yeah, but we got Macaulay Culkin's little brother.
No, not that one. The other one.
Yeah.
No, not the one that's in Succession. The other one.
Yeah, the last one.
This the last one.
Yeah.
I think he's the last one. There might actually be another one.
Who knows?
I don't know. I don't know how many Culkins there are. But, yeah, so Faust was their original drummer. Mm-hmm. And in, I believe, 1992, I want to say. I was reading about this earlier today. I should have wrote some notes or something. Mm-hmm. But anyway, in the early 90s, sort of, I think, immediately preceding when the church burnings started, Faust was drinking at the bar, mm-hmm. and was invited by a man named Magne mm-hmm. Andreasen to go for a walk in the park. And according to Faust, he was aggressively propositioned for sex by this man, and Faust does not have a very high opinion of gay people.
Apparently not.
Or didn't at the time, because apparently he's cool with Gaul.
Yeah.
But anyway, Faust, did the classic thing. He stabbed him 37 times in self-defense. And then kicked him in the head. Mm-hmm. That's a running theme with these, early black metal guys, and the way that they tend to kill people. Is it's self-defense, but I, had to make sure.
Sure.
So I stabbed him 37 times.
Yeah.
But so that happened, and I believe it was 2 years later. So this might have been in 92 then that happened, because I believe Faust was arrested and went to prison in 94. Mm-hmm. At the same, or shortly after Varg had been arrested for murder and arson, and was also put in prison. Another member of Emperor had accompanied Varg Vikernes on a number of the infamous church burnings in the early 90s, and took part in the arsons, and also got put in prison. So 2 members of Emperor got thrown in prison. I believe Samoth was the other one. I think he Only spent like 9 months to a year.
Really?
Don't quote me on any of this, by the way. But he also did some time in prison, although was released much earlier than Faust was. Faust, I don't know if Faust got the maximum sentence, which in Norway is only 21 years.
Right.
But I do know he ended up serving 9 years in prison.
No matter how many people you kill, 21 years.
Yeah, that's the way it works in Norway. But when you look at the statistics, there's something to it. It sounds weird to us Americans, but when you look at their crime rates and violent crime and everything in aggregate, it's like
it's actually pretty low.
Okay, they're doing something right in regards to their justice system, I guess. But yeah, so they recorded this album. They recorded their first album with Faust. I don't know if he was free or in prison when it was released. I know it came out in '94.
Right.
Their first album was fairly widely regarded, but not quite as widely regarded
as
this one at the Welkins, or Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk. Do you have any idea what the fuck a Welkin is?
I'm not sure what a Welkin. A Welkin.
Welkin. It's probably. Yeah. You look that up.
Because there's a lot of songs. I looked at the song titles of this album, and I realized, man, these dudes were sitting down in the dark, going, "Bring me the thesaurus,"
basically, or they might be complete like gobbledygook Latin terms. In the vein of Warhammer. Some of it's Norwegian. I think some of it's Latin.
I actually did learn at least one word out of this, and that was ensorcelled.
Ensorcelled.
Yes, which is actually Ensorcelled by Chaos is a good song.
Is ensorcelled a word?
Yes, it means fascinated.
I see.
He's fascinated. You're fascinated by chaos.
Anthems to the Lawrence Welkin at Dusk.
And a one and a two.
Welkin. What is a Welkin? I don't know. I'm looking it up on. What is
the sky or heaven?
Okay, so is that like Old English or Norwegian or?
Doesn't say.
It's an antiquated term.
Yes, it is. William Shakespeare.
I see. So is it just the word he made up?
I don't know.
Just a word Shakespeare, because he did that.
He made up a lot of shit.
He made up a lot of words.
And
because the English language was not particularly expansive at the time.
No, and he expanded it.
Yes. So yeah, this was at the time and continues to be a very, very widely regarded and acclaimed album. They got a new drummer, and I believe they changed bassists. At that point, Sam Oth was back in the band. And he was out of prison and had been with them and touring with them in the meantime. And they released this to critical acclaim, and it continues to be very, very highly regarded. I think it was Loudwire listed it as, or maybe it wasn't Loudwire. Somebody declared it the best black metal album of all time, I believe, in 2018.
Yeah.
It was a certain publication named it the best black metal album ever. It is also considered to be one of the best metal albums ever, period. And
there's actually singing in this.
Yes, there is some clean singing in this as well. And the vocals in general are a lot better than Mayhem.
A lot better. Well, a lot better than what's his name?
A lot better than Attila.
Attila, that was it.
Way, way, way better than whatever the fuck Attila was doing on Mayhem's first album. Yeah, these vocals are much more in line to what the entire rest of black metal has done. Like, it's weird to me that Mayhem was like the first, second wave black metal band, the most important one in the Norwegian scene, and is so, widely, regarded. And yet nobody else wanted to do vocals like Attila was doing.
Well, I feel like they served as the example.
In a way,
to
but
a lot. But not necessarily the good example.
Yeah, and we already had death metal at the time.
Well, sure.
So I think everyone else was just like, let's just do death metal vocals, but pitched up a little bit.
Right.
Like let's just have sort of a high shriek that's still gritty and screamed and whatnot. So yeah, that's the type of vocals on here, along with some clean sung vocals and some very sort of like these sort of vocals that I actually kind of dug.
Yeah,
it reminded me of, and I'm sure the thing it reminded me of was a homage to this, the Beelzebub's album.
Yeah.
we listened to last year. There's a couple parts, I believe, in I don't remember. I think it was Cathedrals of Morning. There's a part where one of them talks like this. And speaking of, I don't know if we mentioned this. Beelzebubs is doing live shows at the Tuska Festival,
which is awesome,
in Finland, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go to Finland. Yeah,
I'm down with that.
I would love to go to Finland, but I'm going to be there forever.
Yeah, you.
They announced that the prime minister announced that they want to try out 4-day work weeks and 6-hour days.
Yeah.
Because that they did that sort of thing in Norway, and actually like
productivity went up.
Yeah, productivity went up like 40% nationwide. So it's like I'm just getting more and more reasons that I want to, like, if somebody said, okay, pack your things, you have to move to another country, I'd be like, I'm going to Finland.
And it's not that you're lazy. It's not that you don't want to work.
It's just that I don't want to work. It's that I am lazy. But anyway, we went off on a little tangent there. But I like the vocals. The production on this is very
fantastic.
Good. It's very crisp, which stands in stark contrast to a lot of other black metal.
There's actual strings in there.
Yeah, it's not just somebody, grinding on something with a chainsaw, apparently. Right.
But what I'm saying is, I mean, there's actually,
there's
seems like there's chamber music. Yeah,
lots of keyboard on this.
A lot of keyboard.
This is, I know Dimmu Borgir was around, but I feel like maybe a bit of a prototype for some Dimmu Borgir stuff. I don't know. In the same sort of vein as Dimmu Borgir. Lots of really, really good riffs on this, amazing riffs, and the opening riff of the first full song is actually a Euronymous riff. If that's a name that doesn't mean anything to you, dear listener.
Mayhem.
Euronymous was the founder and lead guitarist of Mayhem, who was murdered by Varg Vikernes. In self-defense, of course, because you stab somebody 20-odd times. Yeah. And then one in the head because you're defending yourself.
Exactly, because you went to their house.
Because you went to their house
with
to confront them with a knife. That's how that works. Good job, Louis Cachet.
That's what he's calling himself now.
Or Louis, I don't know how the fuck he says it.
Louis. He's French now.
Yeah, he lives in France.
He lives in the south of France.
And did not burn down Notre Dame.
Sure he did.
That we know of. It would have been quite a drive because he lives in the south of France.
Right. Well, yeah, that was the meme that was going around immediately the day when
like an hour later, people were posting pictures of that infamous smile that Varg has from the courtroom.
Right.
That infamous picture of him. People were posting that underneath.
Yeah, they posting a picture of a map of Varg's commute for the day.
Commute. Like, goddamn. But since we kind of went back to the crimes and the church burnings and stuff, this is so like I mentioned earlier, I was a little trepidatious about Mayhem and their reputation. These are pop-offs, by the way. We're drinking regular old Guinness Drought tonight. Draft.
Guinness Drought.
Yeah, no. Guinness Drought. Yep.
It's Dust Bowl Guinness.
We have a complete dearth of Guinness tonight. They in my mind, they had a much worse reputation, but they do have probably some questionable views. I couldn't find, it's not listed on their Wikipedia or anything that I typed in is Emperor a Nazi band?
Right.
And I didn't quite get anything. The biggest thing was Faust having killed a gay person, and for a lot of National Socialist black metal bands, a big thing is homophobia and just general hatred of everybody except for white people in general.
Right.
There is, I think, definitely some pagan nationalist sentiments is the best I could find. And there's, that's a lot of Norwegian black metal in general, is if someone has like Dark Throne has gone out of their way their entire career to say, we don't give a shit about politics.
Right.
We're not going to talk about that at all. Whatever they might believe privately, they've never let on anything about what their beliefs are in a wider sense.
Right.
Whereas Emperor has been a little bit different. The biggest thing has always been anti-Christianity with them,
Sure.
which is kind of par for the course for Norwegian black metal, but not a whole lot of white supremacy stuff that I was able to find, because that's always the trouble with me in like a new sort of classic death metal band, and especially like one that has like pagan themes. It's like, okay, what side of the whole neo-paganism thing are they on? Because that's a big divide in, neo-paganism and heathenry in general, especially for like Germanic stuff, is there are people who are saying this is a white person's religion. We're not going to allow anyone who is not of Caucasian descent to be a part of our religion. And then there's the other half that's just like, who gives a shit? If you believe in the gods, fine. Go ahead, go do it. Come hang out with us in the woods.
Sure.
We're gonna play some drums and shit. Like there's kind of two halves to that, and that's like the division is there's I think there might be a more specific name, but there's like heathenry and then there's Odinism, and Odinism's the bad one,
right?
At least that's from what I've read. Odinism seems to be the sort of nationalist one, and the white supremacist one. And so that's always a trouble with black metal bands, because there are so many that have sentiments like that. And it's like, how deep into that are you getting? Are you just enthusiastic about your history, or are you a little too enthusiastic about your history?
They think of their history and being of that part of the world and the power that it gives them.
Yeah. So that's always a challenge for me, because I don't want to support the music of people who are pieces of shit. Although I guess anyone who continues to listen to and enjoy Chris Brown, people continue to buy that fuck's albums. So I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure there's stuff in my record collection that these guys are fucking assholes.
And on a certain level, like there is something to be said, and it's been a debate in every part of the art world for many years. Is do you separate art from the artist and appreciate the creation without the context of the person who created it? And of course, there's the argument that you cannot separate it from the person who created it, because art is all about feeling and emotion, and they put those feelings, they put a piece of themselves into this, and therefore it's always going to have some context of their ideals instilled in it. I don't know. This album, if we're doing that, this album is amazing. This album is the I think has a very well-deserved reputation as one of the best black metal albums ever.
Very well created. I love how just deeply embedded the vocals are into the mix.
Yeah, they're not inscrutable.
No, they're not.
You can hear them. They're fairly clear, but they don't stand out super, like they don't overwhelm anything.
No,
it's just a part of the cacophony.
And it's great.
Yes, and it helps to hide, like, I think black metal vocals in isolation can sometimes be a little thin. It's not quite like a deep death growl where there's so much bass to it that it kind of fills out its own space. Black metal vocals can tend to be a little more airy, a little thinner, and if they aren't embedded into the mix well enough, they can tend to sound a little weak and a little like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. But you bury them in the mix just a little bit, and it's like, ooh, all right.
That's nice.
All right, that's nice. Okay. And I guess one last thing about political and background and stuff like that. Isan, who's the vocalist and one of the guitarists, has made a point to sort of distance himself. Yes.
He's multiple people.
He talks like Toki.
Myself.
I distance myself. But no, he's made somewhat of a point, along with a lot of other of sort of the elder generation of black metal artists that are still around, to distance himself from a number of the comments that he's made. Gall has kind of done the same thing, because he's said some pretty awful things in his time.
He said a lot of things very slowly.
Yeah, very slowly, and clearly thought about them very hard.
My favorite thing is that interview with him where they said, "What is the heart of your music? What makes you do what you do?"
Beat, Satan. Yeah, he's a very deliberate man.
Yeah.
But like Gall has kind of done the same thing of distancing himself from certain opinions he's held in the past. I think Isan and Samoth too have both kind of attributed, like, look, we were in our 20s, we were fucking dumb and getting into some really, some really awful stuff. Like I think there is still, at least with Samoth and a couple of the other members of Emperor, and Faust, who has reunited with the band a couple of times. Emperor had disbanded in the late 90s, I think. But they've been playing sporadic live shows every once in a while. But they have said that they don't intend to make any new, music. They're just playing live shows every once in a while and reuniting. And Faust has gotten back with them a couple of times, which was, as one could expect, controversial.
Sure.
To say the least.
Which makes me wonder, what are they doing then otherwise? What do you do if you're in a black metal band and you play once a year and aren't making new records?
I think all of them are just in different bands, working on different projects. I think Samoth went on to be in a couple of different death metal bands. I think I can't recall the name, but they kind of split off and went into their own directions and are still making music, I think, just separately, and getting back together every once in a while. There is still some anti-Christian sentiment there, but some of the more overt violent Satanism and that sort of thing has died down, but yeah, the shadow of that hangs over. I think is going to hang over their reputation as a band forever.
Well, of course. I mean, there's still always going to be the sentiment where they do appreciate our Dark Lord and Master.
Yeah, and it's like it's it's like it's going to be there, and that's part of the mystique of Norwegian black metal in early 90s black metal. It's part of the mystique. It makes it feel dangerous. It makes it feel, it continues to make it feel taboo, even though all that stuff happened nearly 30 years ago at this point. It still feels dangerous and taboo, and like, oh, I'm listening to this. Oh,
sure.
At least that it feels that way.
A little bit, but nowadays you have things like your Ghost and your different bands where we worship Satan and
kind of cartoonifying Satanism a little bit. And for me, for enjoying black metal, I've got a lot of options that, at least as far as I know, feel less controversial. I haven't heard any unpleasant things about Panopticon. I haven't heard any unpleasant things about False Varos, and like bands like that I can enjoy without being like,
well, that's sort of one thing I was explaining to my wife earlier today, when she was saying, why, because I was explaining to her the history of black metal in the early 1990s. She was like, why the fuck are you interested in this? And I explained it's
why do people
history.
like documentaries about serial killers?
Well, sure, absolutely, it's fun that way. But now, and I also sort of explained that it's led to something bigger and better, like the Appalachian sort of black metal
just
scene that's
American
happening.
Black metal in general in the last 10 years has been so expansive and wild and beautiful.
And they're no longer like screaming about Satan so much as they are their feelings.
Yeah, or the destruction of the environment and stuff like that's what so much Panopticon stuff is about. Is about environmental destruction and coal mining and just stuff like that. They've expanded. And like there's been themes of nature in a lot of black metal for a while, but I feel like in the last 10 years in America, people have really started to like double down on that and that sort of thing. I don't know. But anyway, this is a silly question. Does this slap?
God.
Yeah.
Open, well, actually the beginning of it is a very nice, beautiful sort of...
yeah.
Acoustic guitar and sort of.
I was not
keyboard.
expecting that.
No, it was very nice, and then immediately slap, and then it keeps going.
It keeps on slapping you really, 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 really quick.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever seen world record clapping? People who like get the most amount of
I've
claps
seen that,
in a certain amount of time.
Yeah,
that's what it feels like.
It does,
because it's just all double bass and tremolo picking, and like it's
or those Russian slapping contests.
I mean, those are slower and more deliberate.
Yeah. And they hurt more.
That's a Gojira type of slap in those ones. You get slapped by the fucking god hand Ilya, whatever his name was. He got knocked out recently.
Really?
One of the more recent Russian slapping contest videos. Like, he's the big dude with the beard.
Sure.
That just palm strikes people. Which shouldn't be allowed, but whatever.
That's not slapping.
Yeah.
That's palm striking. He's
giving people fucking concussions.
Yeah.
Somebody pulled that shit on him,
right.
And he damn near fell on the floor. So like someone finally got him. If you haven't watched any Russian slapping videos, I recommend it.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, there's a channel called Penguin Zero, because it's an old style YouTube name. Of this guy named Charlie, who also goes by Critical, but he chronicles these Russian slapping videos, and it's fucking wonderful. But yeah, this is not that. This is this is power slapping. This is real quick.
Yes,
very quick. So I was looking at the score. They had some scores on the Wikipedia page, so I just kind of tallied them. There were only 3, but they were big publications. And it's about 87.
About 87, so
I imagine
solid B.
Sum total is probably mid 80s, probably, which is very good territory to be in. There were some, I think, like AllMusic gave it a 90. One of the other, I think Sputnik, it might have been Sputnik on there, giving it a 100.
Sure.
Translated into
Sputnik's very hit and miss, and they're very. It's great or it's not.
So they tend to be a bit divisive about albums. The albums that they like, they really like. The albums that they don't like, they kind of hate. But that was about the score that people seemed to give to it. What was your favorite song on here?
I liked the Acclamation of Bonds. That was a great song. There was some really great, it was like buried in there some chamber music. Going on in there.
I mean, there's so much going on in the background of every song. There's so many keyboards. There were parts that like almost made me. It reminded me of like Dream Theater keyboards in some part. Like there's like so much keyboard going on and so many different tones from the keyboard. Like they kind of made the most out of having a keyboard, at least that you can do in a black metal band like this.
Yeah, and it didn't ruin it. It didn't over keyboard it.
Yeah, there wasn't too much.
So I remember there was a band called, I think it was called Nocturnus. There was the first sort of death metal band I'd ever heard with keyboards. And I'm like,
they kind of overdid it.
No, yeah.
And there's a certain level of production fidelity that you have to hit in order for keyboard to sound good with your album, because keyboard by its nature is a digital instrument.
Yes.
And if you've got really lo-fi or just really, really grungy guitars, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. A sore thumb no matter what.
Or a sore thumb.
Or a thrum, yeah. I guess you could always attach a distortion pedal to a keyboard.
Sure.
It's a signal chain like any other, right?
Or often there's a distortion function on your keyboard.
On the keyboard. But the pedal might give it some more authentic sound. I don't know.
If you stick the HM2.
Yeah, stick an HM2 on a keyboard and see what happens. I'd be interested to hear that. Stick an HM. Oh my God! I want to hear somebody stick an HM2 on a pedal steel guitar.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That'd be so cool.
Actually, that's some of the first recorded sort of metal type distortion was done on a pedal steel. Yeah,
that's real. That's cool. I'd love to hear that.
I saw it was a video. It was what's his name? He did Tony Robbins. Maybe not Tony Robbins. Is Tony Robbins the speaker? No.
I don't know.
No, anyway,
I think Tony Robbins is, that sounds like a public speaker.
Anyway.
Somebody.
Marty Robbins.
Okay.
Marty Robbins is what I'm talking about.
Marty.
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 We gotta put some distortion on this
pedal steel guitar.
We gotta get to 88.8 degrees. Miles an hour. Anyway, no, his steel pedal was playing with the distortion, and it was going, and he's like, I've been telling him to get that fixed. It was funny. I'm like, no, but that's a badass. No,
you
let
just
him play.
discovered the greatest thing ever.
Yeah,
it's a man discovering fire.
Yeah.
I kind of really immersed myself in this, so I wasn't really paying attention to song titles. So I just copped out.
I made note. I tried to make note. What the fuck am I listening to? This is awesome.
I copped out and put the first track. I love.
Yeah. Well, the second. I think the second. The
second track. The first full song.
Yeah.
I put that one down. It's Yea in Transiperium.
Yeah, I love that riff.
Ye in Transiperium, and it's a Euronymous riff.
Yeah,
it's the opening riff, and it kind of continues for the whole song.
It's pretty awesome.
It's a Euronymous riff that was from an unused Mayhem song, or an unreleased Mayhem song rather.
Yeah,
I put that down as my favorite. What medal you want to give this?
I'm gonna have to give it a gold medal. I'm going to give it a gold medal for what it is.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I give the album a gold medal. I give the people a participation trophy.
There you go.
Maybe.
Thanks for showing up.
They're great music. I mean, can be made by.
Faust was not in on this.
Faust was not in on this, but the other members of the band don't exactly have squeaky clean sort of views about the way the world works.
You can often judge people by who they hang out with.
Yeah. And the member of their band is a convicted murderer. So
Also, there's a church burner. I mean,
I'm
kind of okay with that.
An arsonist who burned down several historic churches.
Right.
But then again, you look at Cannibal Corpse, and all the members of Cannibal Corpse seem to be extremely nice people, and then you've got Pat, who burned down his own house and had flamethrowers and shit,
meth and things.
Was on an insane amount of meth. It seems
Pat.
like, God damn it, Pat, what the fuck were you doing? Or like. I mean, we talked about this for a while a few weeks ago, but good music can be made by some shitty people. Look at Megadeth. Dave Mustaine is a giant asshole, but he makes some goddamn good music. So
sure.
So
I mean, people are still making art.
Yeah,
as if though
I don't know why they are.
Rust in Peace didn't exist.
Yeah, I don't know what they think they're doing, but I don't know what these guys thought they were doing. Right? Somebody already made the best metal album ever. At least until Chocolate Starfish and the hot dog flavored water would come out. But
I have to imagine if there's ever an interview with Wes Borland and people are saying, so tell us a little more about Limp Bizkit, and he's going, fucking please don't ask me about Limp Bizkit. I'm done. Whereas interviews with Fred Durst, they go, tell me about Limp Bizkit. Well, you see, let me tell you,
I put it in this movie I made called The Fanatic. You should go watch it.
I feel like we should watch it for the podcast.
It only made $3,000 domestic. You can separate it to the amount of theaters it was released to, and I think it was like 4 people on average per theater went to go see it. Oh, yeah, I kind of want... Look, the first spoken line of dialogue in the movie is John Travolta walking into a store saying, I can't stay long, I gotta poo.
That's the first thing that's said in the movie.
That's the first spoken line of dialogue in the movie. We kind of have to watch it.
I can't stay long, I gotta poo.
That was a good John Travolta impression,
Thank you.
by the way.
I've been watching John Travolta since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Welcome Back, Kotter was great. Love that show.
John Travolta has had such a career.
Such a career.
Oh, boy. But
been in some of the most important movies and been in some of the biggest poo. Yeah.
Biggest piles of shit. And some of the most wonderfully flamboyant piles of shit. Like, look at Face Off.
Oh, sure.
Face Off is fucking wonderful.
Take his face. I could eat a peach for hours.
I want to take his face off. Because it's the two most infamous overactors in Hollywood doing their impressions of each other. And the best part is they hate each other.
Like the actors themselves hate each other.
John Travolta and Nick Cage did not like each other at all. So they're doing shitty impressions of each other on purpose.
On film. For an audience.
What a wonderful, wonderful concept for a movie.
And they're remaking it.
How dare they? That movie's already perfect. Who's the modern equivalent of Nick Cage and John Travolta? I'll tell you who. Nick Cage and John Travolta. They should just make Face Off 2. Face Off again. Somehow Nick Cage is back alive.
The face came back off.
It's a John Woo movie. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
John Woo is like Michael Bay, but if Michael Bay was under the delusion that he had style.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Oh boy!
Which, by the way, I watched Bumblebee the other day.
Bumblebee. What is? Oh, that's Michael Bay was just a producer on that.
He was just a producer on that.
Yeah, which is why Bumblebee was apparently good.
Yeah, it actually wasn't bad. Yeah, it was great.
It wasn't the best movie ever, but it was better than fucking Transformers.
Yeah, it was better than the Dark Knight of the Moon or whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah, I think the last one was called The Last Night.
The Last Night, yeah.
And before that, it wasn't. Dark of the Moon was number 3.
Sure.
I can't keep track of that fucking
I don't
bullshit.
know.
Anyway. So I think March rolls around. Yeah, maybe we'll watch The Fanatic simply because Fred Durst was in a metal band.
Is Limp Bizkit a metal band?
Limp Bizkit's it was a new metal band. It qualifies.
I saw them in concert.
Yeah,
I actually saw them at Mile High Stadium.
What year was that?
I don't know. It was when Metallica was on tour with them.
Metallica.
Who I've seen 3 times now.
You've seen Metallica 3 times.
Yeah.
Those are rookie numbers. You got to pump those numbers up.
I saw them here in Minot.
That's true. Yeah, you saw them at the auditorium.
The City Auditorium. The Cult opened for them.
Oh my
the Cult, who were awesome in live.
God.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that sort of. I mean, that shit very well could be happening now. There could be a band that's about to be huge.
Sure.
That plays, at the O, and we just don't know it now. I mean, Metallica was already big at that time, I imagine, but they weren't a household name yet. But
if you listened, 4th album.
But if you liked metal, everybody knew about who Metallica was. But
they were the headliner.
Yeah. Anyway, future stuff next week. I think we're going to dig into an album that's all about coal mining.
Oh, yeah.
Panopticon's 2012 album, Kentucky, which is
awesome.
Very much about, coal mining in the Kentucky area, and is largely inspired by and uses a lot of sound samples from the film Harlan County, USA.
Oh, okay.
And so, I think that's what we're going to dig into. I will warn you, it sounds a little rough at first. There's some flute. I want to say it's flute that is jarring.
A jarring flute.
There's a jarring flute that is played along with the guitar in some of the songs that is a bit hard to get used to or into, but I think in total the album is worth it. It's not amongst my favorite Panopticon albums, but it's still pretty good.
But it's an important album.
To me, yeah. And for Panopticon in general, it's sort of what broke their name into his name, I guess.
His name. It's a dude.
Yeah, it's Austin. But
Lund.
Yeah, that's what got a lot of the original like critical acclaim for them, and sort of like put Panopticon on the radar of websites like Sputnik and Pitchfork and stuff like that. People are like, oh, this is sort of good hipster metal. Okay.
Sure.
But anyway, that's what we're doing next week.
Black metal, Panopticon.
Yep, Kentucky. That's what we're doing. Get your banjos ready, everybody. Get your banjos ready.
Okay. Black metal banjo.
Black metal banjo. That's the selling point for Panopticon.
Okay.
It's black metal, but with a banjo.
Mm-hmm.
So that's next week. If you're interested, dear listener, please check us out on our social media pages.
Yes.
You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. I think it's just Bronze Metalist Podcast, maybe. Just Bronze Metalist. That'll get you there.
Bronze Medalist. Or either put in Bronze Medalist or Quinn.
I'm going to miss one of these.
That's 4 for the record, just so you know. Okay.
Anyway, yes, everyone's favorite comedy trope, the rule of 4s.
Yes.
Yeah, check us out on those pages and give us a follow, share our stuff with your friends. It's the easiest way. You don't even have to talk to another human being.
No.
To let them know that this is a thing that you like.
Who wants to do that?
If you do want to do that, if you're one of those weird extroverts,
gross.
Go ahead and tell your friends in person. That's the word of mouth is always nice.
IRL.
Yeah, IRL as the children say.
Say Bronze Medalist.
Yes. You can also subscribe to our feeds on Libsyn and iTunes. It's not iTunes anymore. I keep on forgetting that.
Mine still says iTunes on it on my phone.
When was the last time you updated?
Recently. I always update right away.
Maybe that hasn't happened yet. I know it's happening at some point.
Right.
Or just Apple Podcasts. Wherever you get your podcasts on your iPhone.
There it is.
There it is. That or Libsyn. Subscribe to us.
I can't remember what it's called on Android. It's not Libsyn. It's something that channels Libsyn.
It's the podcast app or the podcast channel or something like. It's odd. I have it on mine.
All right.
So I can listen till death do us blart every November.
All right.
Because it is not on. I guess it's on iTunes, but I don't have
the Android phone. You have a Apple
I have
phone.
an Android phone.
Right.
But it is. Once a month or once a year, they pay Libsyn a certain fee to reactivate their account.
Sure.
Anyway, thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Medalist Podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations.